Welcome back to Head Start for our next on topic. Actor Vhong Navarro has been released from the Taguig City Jail after the court allowed him to post bail in relation to the rape case filed against the It's Showtime host. Now joining us this morning, we have Attorney Alma Malyonga, Vhong Navarro's lawyer. Attorney Malyonga, good morning to you.
Good morning, Karen. I'm glad to be back on your program.
All right. A bail of 1 million pesos. I want to ask you, was your camp surprised that he was granted bail?
You know, we were always confident about the facts and the law in this case. To be very, very frank, I could not imagine how rape could not be granted, especially after we held hearings. And after I had the opportunity to cross-examine not only the other two witnesses for the prosecution, but Ms. Denise Cornejo herself. And as you know, in rape cases, the most important witness is actually the rape victim herself. And we had actually been urging the prosecution to present Ms. Denise Cornejo at the earliest possible time. They had 5 witnesses. I was always consistently saying, please present the complainant herself, please present Denise herself, because everything would stand or fall based on her testimony. And we did have the opportunity to cross-examine Ms. Denise Cornejo. I did so in 2 hearings. Her cross-examination took 2 days to complete.
And well, the judge in her decision said that there are notable inconsistencies in the testimony of the private complainant, and the judge said this cannot be ignored. So would you say that with a judge essentially granting bail and issuing this statement, that it has weakened the case against Vhong Navarro?
To my mind, to be very honest, I think the testimony of Denise, being what it was, the testimony she offered can no longer be changed. The facts are as they are, as laid out by her. And since her testimony was riddled with inconsistencies, her testimony was not only based on what she currently said. She was confronted with multiple sworn declarations that she had made in the course of
in the past.
In the past, this included, for example, the 3 complaints that the court thought was most important, although there were more that we confronted Ms. Denise Cornejo with, was her first complaint affidavit dated January 29, 2014, where she said no rape occurred. She actually did not mention any rape that had happened on January 17. On the contrary, she said they met at that date.
And she said, meaning she said that particular statement in a sworn affidavit, no rape occurred. Sinabi niya yun as is.
Actually, their explanation is that she just forgot to mention it. In the same way that she repeated the same narration of what happened on January 17, that Vhong went there. She had been doing some work when her friend did not arrive. She said, I asked him to go, and he did. That was her version. I asked her to read it as part of the records. It's just a very detailed narration of what happened on January 17. She repeated that in a verified petition. She executed just a day or 2 later. It's the same thing. And the court noted that she also executed a February 27, 14 narration, and of course her 3rd complaint. And the inconsistencies were too great for the court to ignore it.
Yeah. Tinanong mo ba, Attorney Malyonga, because the media, of course, wasn't able to, witness her cross-examination, or meron po ba? Meron bang pinayagan po sa loob?
No, unfortunately, no.
Wala, no.
But I would be very happy,
I would say
at some point in time for the record of the hearings.
Yes. I
to be
believe that
released.
the court should allow
Yes.
media people, like they do in the United States, to
Yes.
actually write about the hearing, write about the cross-examination. I mean, you even have Johnny Depp and Amber Heard live, right?
Mhm.
Because then
Mhm.
you would know how the actual trial is going. Pero tinanong niyo po ba sa kanya, bakit mo kinasuhan ngayon lang? Eh gayong you've already issued sworn affidavits, and during the time that the alleged incident occurred, you could have actually brought him to court.
Yes. Actually, when she said that she was too embarrassed to say it at the time, um, I said, we made a narration of all the events, the timelines. The fact that Mr. Navarro had actually publicly come out with what happened, including their consensual sexual encounter on January 17. And yet she came out with her complaint affidavit. It came out 2 days later. She did not mention it at all.
Yeah.
And the court also said.
And she was interviewed by the media before, am I correct? Yeah. She was interviewed, if I remember, I'm not sure if she was on Head Start, but several members of the media were able to speak with her.
There was one specific interview that we presented. That was an interview made in another channel.
Ano yun, ma'am? Can you share?
The interview with Cara David.
Okay.
Where this was already, I think, a January 29 interview after Mr. Navarro had already spoken. And she narrated what happened, and specifically, and this was the portion that we showed. She said, yes, nakita kami noong January 17, pero walang nangyari. And she was
Sinabi niya yun.
Yes,
Sinabi niya yun sa interview. Okay.
Yes, very specifically. The court also noted, of course, that she could not explain why she was so scared. Precisely in her decision, the court said, why should she be scared to talk about the January 17 incident when she had already spoken about the January 22 incident? And the court also noted, because I brought this out, she had, as I said, multiple sworn declarations. At the end, she suspected that she was drunk, but I confronted her with at least 5 sworn declarations where, to the question, did you drink any wine that Mr. Vhong Navarro offered? She said, I declined the drink. I declined the drink. I declined, until finally, 1.5 years later, in her third complaint, that's the first time that she said, oh, I took a sip from the wine that was offered. And the court also
all her sworn declaration said she did not touch alcohol. Okay, so given these inconsistencies, which are quite big when you think about it, isn't this enough to actually dismiss the charges, these new charges?
Well, this is the way our system works. What we did today, what we did in the last month, November, was only for the petition for bail, which means that Mr. Vhong Navarro legally has only been granted temporary liberty, but the case continues. I do think that at this point, it's already very clear to our mind that the prosecution is going to have a very difficult time because, as I said, the complainant's testimony is the most important. The principles that the court cited, which is that the consistency and credibility is the most important in assessing the weight of a rape accusation, and that because the accusation can be made with so much facility, her testimony must be very, very carefully scrutinized. The court actually also, noted that when Ms. Cornejo said she suspected that she had been drugged, part of my cross-examination was to say, you did not see that happen, of course. And she said, no. And I said, you were just a few feet away from him, right?
Okay.
And then, of course, the other thing that was interesting for me, which the court noted was also not only the material inconsistencies, but testimony that is inconsistent with human behavior.
Yeah.
I did show the CCTV footages, no, and I
Yeah.
asked for an explanation. I said, Miss Denise Cornea, this is you in the footages. You're smiling and you're
After the alleged
Mm.
rape.
yes.
Parang kumbaga,
on
let's
January
remind the
22.
viewer because they may not remember, is after the alleged rape, there was CCTV footage of Miss Cornejo going to the elevator, smiling, happy, really calm. Wherein the demeanor of any woman that may have been raped
Yes.
to run away, right? To be crying, to be upset, right?
Mhm. And when she was confronted with that footages, her answer on the stand is, yes, what's wrong with that? That's how she answered it. And of course, the court also noted as part of the inconsistency the fact that she continued to text with Mr. Navarro after
he allegedly raped her. Okay, all right. So you've made it clear, and these are strong points. Let's talk about now. Yes, temporary liberties, out on bail. What are the limitations? Like, for example, can he travel? No. Can he travel?
Yes, of course, he can travel, but it will always have to be with prior court approval.
Okay. Number two, can he work? Do you advise him to go back to Showtime, for example, or have you advised him to lay low first?
It's actually up to Vhong. He could work immediately, but that's beyond my pay grade already. Because frankly, for me, and this is what I advised him, but I said you have to consult people other than your lawyer, because there's no legal obstacle to you working. But from my mind, Karen, I was there on day one when he was detained. And prior to that, since July, can you imagine the pressure of all of these things happening? The Court of Appeals suddenly reversing what had already been dismissed multiple times, and the oddity of the Court of Appeals being already implemented at this point in time when it wasn't yet final, and yet it happened. I told you when you interviewed me before, it was very, very surreal to me up to now. And I can tell you, we as I told you, we were going to fight very, very hard, but I saw him from the time that he was worried about what was going to happen up to the time that a warrant of arrest was actually issued, up to the time he was detained.
Oh, what was he like? Go on.
It was, how would you feel, Karen, with that happening to you, even me?
So how was he? How was Mr. Navarro when he was detained? I mean, people respond differently. You have former Senator Laila de Lima, very different when you ask her how she's coping, right? What was he like?
It was very hard for him.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that it was too hard, mainly because I don't want some sectors who probably would enjoy what's happening to him to just rejoice. But I have to be very, very honest. It was very difficult. It was very difficult. And then from the NBI to be transferred to the Taguig facility. But I have to tell you, Karen, I'm very, very thankful. While Mr. Navarro was detained, both at the NBI and in Taguig, he was treated right. The circumstances were difficult because he was with other detainees. He had to deal with them. He had to interact with them, but they were, in the end, they were very, very nice. In the Taguig facility, which we had so much fear because of certain information that we had received. The first time I stepped at the when I went to visit him at the time when he was immediately after he was brought there, I was assured actually because I was able to talk to the jail warden, and the nurse and the other officers. They were very professional.
All right,
and they told me that it is also a matter of pride to them that Mr. Navarro be kept safe.
Okay, so all right. Two more questions. We don't have enough time, but just very quickly. what happens next? How long, I mean, in terms of the timetable for a situation like this, where it's odd enough, as you said, that a court of appeals reversed the ruling, is how long can Vhong Navarro be out on bail? How long before this court makes a decision? Because it's also his life at stake here. He can't move on completely. So yun muna.
Well, first to the question, how long will Mr. Navarro be out on bail? He'll be out on bail until the case is finished. And we are very, very confident, again, as I said, that because Ms. Denise Corneas has already testified, that he will be acquitted. That's my fearless forecast. Of course, it's not up to me. I'll not be the one who will acquit Mr. Navarro, but I've been practicing. I know my law. Unfortunately, the hearings have been already set. No, in fact, my recollection is up to 2024 hearings have been held, but there are ways to expedite.
Yes,
I believe we will do that, because at some point,
is it possible for the court to decide next year? I mean, is that possible in the Philippines?
I would pray, and I would urge the prosecution to cooperate by expediting the hearings. There are some witnesses. The prosecution named about 16 witnesses at the get-go. Some of them did not come. They had 2 witnesses, but it does not matter to me anymore if they come or not. Let them testify. Let them testify now. Let them testify all next week. We are ready. And if the matter can be already be submitted for resolution next week, we say go, let's go ahead. Let's have a witness every day. But unfortunately, the hearings have been scheduled, but we will look for ways to have the hearings expedited if that can be done. And of course, we still have a petition before the Supreme Court. We don't know what's going to happen there. But the goal, really, Karen, Mr. Vhong Navarro has already been granted bail. The goal is to have the cases themselves, not only this one, but for the acts of lasciviousness, disposed of, dismissed at the earliest possible time, if that is at all possible, in the name of justice and in the name of demonstrating that in this country, things can be done right.
Okay.
Yes, in accordance with law, in accordance with what justice dictates. That's our hope and our prayer.
All right. On that note, Attorney Alma Malyonga, thank you for joining me once again on Head Start. You take care, ma'am. I appreciate it.
You too. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. God bless you. That's Head Start today, everyone. I'm Karen Davila. Thanks for watching.